I'm getting myself into hot water with this one. Hey, what's up you guys? I'm back. Wanted to remind everybody that I have enamel pins for sale. They're on Etsy. I handle and ship all the orders myself, so if you want them before Christmas, you might want to get on that pretty fast because it takes me a long time to do the simplest things. Also, just throwing in that if you want to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, my @ is always olive oil orange juice. Yeah, except for on Twitter, it's just olive oil orange J, because Twitter won't let me use the full thing. Alright, no more lollygagging, let's get into it. So this week, Ethan from H3H3 Productions got himself into quite a pickle when he picked on K-pop in one of their recent podcasts while they were watching the YouTube Rewind for 2019. This caused outrage among many K-pop fans who quickly hopped onto Twitter and began the cancellation process. Ethan doesn't know how to keep his mouth shut, so he also moved onto Twitter and just poked the bear. He was even able to secure a spot on the trending page with hashtag H3H3 is over party. So I'm gonna start first of all with this, and I'm only gonna say this once, so listen close. 1. In expressing my opinions on Ethan's comments, I am in no way condoning bullying or harassment. 2. In expressing my thoughts on the K-pop fanbase, I am in no way saying that all fans are the same. Thirdly and finally, in expressing my opinions on K-pop and possible abuse within the industry, I am in no way ignoring the similarities in the American music industry. So please keep that in mind when you're watching this video. I don't want to have to go through the comment section and send everyone back to this time code in particular. So first, Ethan's comments. Most of the outrage is coming from people who have not watched H3H3 very much, if at all. So they're not used to Ethan's behavior, and Ethan is known widely for expressing his thoughts in a very harsh way and not choosing his words wisely. It doesn't necessarily make him a bad person, he just says the wrong thing and he doesn't truly realize the weight of the words he is using, or he just pops off and then is like, oh, said that in a way I probably shouldn't have, and it came across way different than he meant it to come across. I'm not necessarily defending the comments in a sense, I'm just trying to rationalize them in a best case scenario. If he really meant it the way I interpreted it, then the outrage is a little unwarranted. So the statements made about K-pop and its fan base for the average viewer of H3H3 was not very shocking. However, when I watched it, I knew immediately he was going to get attacked for it. And he even said in the podcast, I'm gonna get assassinated for this, aren't I? So he called it for sure. So I can't exactly repeat verbatim what he said because I'm trying to avoid getting demonetized and banned from YouTube for who knows what these days. So I'm gonna do my best. So the main outrage came from not necessarily Ethan not liking K-pop, though that is a big part of it by itself, but it was the comments he made about the fans, saying that they were little girls and grown men with strong sexual preferences for these certain band members. But here's the thing, this isn't new. This isn't a new observation. We've known for a long time that specifically grown men across the world have sexual preferences for the Korean aesthetic, or like the young Japanese girl in a school outfit. You know what I'm saying? Specifically when it comes to anime. I don't even watch anime, but I do know how female characters are portrayed very often with So that's already been a problem, but I think Ethan's point was it's now spread to young girls idolizing and sexualizing to a very unhealthy degree these young K-pop stars. Excuse me, they don't call them stars, they call them idols, which I have a whole problem with idolizing human beings in general, but specifically these young people being idolized by other young people and being forced to uphold this certain image in order to stay relevant and remain an idol of all things, which is a hefty weight to carry. I hope absolutely no one has me as their idol, because oof, I'm gonna fail ya. If I haven't already, I'm going to frequently. Again, this is not to say that I agree with Ethan's choice of words, but I agree that far too many people are interested in Korean stars almost purely for the visual aesthetic, to the point of obsessive. You know what, we made it far enough in the video. I think I can say the word fetish without getting caught. So one of the main problems was that Ethan said that it was young girls to these Korean idols. I don't think Ethan is a pedophile for saying these things. He immediately jumped from that subject to men also doing the same thing, and then just to K-pop as a whole and his dislike of it and its fan base. He didn't like dwell on it. I don't think he sits around thinking about it. If anything, people on Twitter who are mad about it spent more time thinking about little girls doing this than he did in the moment or at all. He reiterated this point when he was getting attacked on Twitter by saying the following in a tweet: "My message to K-pop fans, lighten up nerds. If you can't handle your hobby being made fun of a little bit, then you really are just a bunch of little girls jerking off to K-pop boys." He also retweeted his own tweet like a few minutes later. I don't really understand what happened there, Ethan, but alright. Again, don't like the choice of words, but can't say that he's not onto something. Can't say that he's right, but can't say that he's 100% wrong either. He only tweeted that just to get under people's skin. Do people realize that? Like, he's really not sitting around thinking about this. He saw what was going on Twitter and he's like, you know, it'd be funny if I just said it again. That's what he does. That's what he's known for. It's what he's done for years. People are just now realizing it because a lot of the people arguing with him are like 14 years old, so they've not been around long enough to see him do this. The only tweet of his that I actually enjoyed from that day and thought was pretty funny was this one. Gotta say, he got him. But finally, the last of his tweets and the last I will talk about Ethan in this scenario, because I will get to K-pop outside of Ethan's commentary on it. He mentioned that K-pop stans were responsible for the dozens of suicides among K-pop idols due to specifically online abuse. This one's very tricky and there's a lot of nuance to it, and I really need you to hang with me and listen to what I'm saying, please. Don't take one sentence I say out of context. Listen to the whole context of what I'm saying, and remember my time code in the beginning, thank you. Yes, the K-pop industry has a problem with their suicide rate. In fact, I believe I heard or read somewhere that in the last 2 months there have been 3 suicides just in the K-pop industry alone. Do I think the fans are completely responsible? Mostly, no. However, the building criticism online affects people more than we realize. American artists with way more lenient record labels and lifestyles are still grossly affected by online criticism. If you add on top of that online criticism the pressures that come with being specifically a Korean star, you add ultimately unattainable expectations from a record label, and in reality, a whole culture that pushes you to your physical and emotional limit. There's criticism in the form of something as simple as ranking band members from your favorite to least favorite, and for what reasons, and who's more attractive, who's better at dancing, who deserves to be in the spotlight and who doesn't deserve to be in the spotlight, who you should stan, who you shouldn't stan. All of that comes crashing down on them. And they're not much older than us. They're my age range, from 18 to 28. They're Generation Z to very young millennials who already are known for being messed up here. So all of that included is a nightmare. Problem is, no one's talking about this. When Ethan tweeted that, people were understandably upset by his choice of words. However, what arguments did they present? Zilch. Nada. They just responded with fan cams of their favorite idols dancing. That was it. That's all K-pop people ever seem to respond with on Twitter. I'm not lumping you all in as the same. I know that there are fans of K-pop who don't do this. What I'm saying is, the majority of things I see online are negative. So your negative side of your population of fans is way more vocal and way more present, which is why a majority of people have a negative outlook on the fan base as a whole for all K-pop stars, not just BTS, not just Blackpink, whatever. It doesn't matter. Replying purely with these fan cams to things that have absolutely nothing to do with K-pop most of the time not only makes people dislike you, it makes people dislike seeing the fan cams, therefore also dislike K-pop as a whole because it just seems annoying. It's everywhere. I just want to read people roast someone on Twitter. I don't want to have to scroll through 5 different fan cams of different girls dancing in order to see a good roast. I'm tired of it. Also, has anyone ever actually not liked a K-pop band and then seen a fan cam and seen the caption, "Anyway, stan this person," and been like, "Oh, I'll look into that," and then stand them after that? I mean, these fan cams exist purely to shut down conversation, to avoid discourse, to just end it all by a video and saying, "Anyway, stand this." Or sometimes when a celebrity dies, they reply to tweets saying, "Well, if they stand this person," with a fan cam below, "that's disgusting. Under no circumstances is that okay. Ever. No matter what you stan, whether it's K-pop or a specific e-boy on TikTok or even freaking Doctor Who, I don't care what it is. You don't do that. But I don't see other people doing that. I only see K-pop fans doing that. I don't see a fan of Supernatural replying to a dead person's tweet saying, well, if they liked Supernatural. I mean, like, no one likes Supernatural anymore, so that's, understandable why that doesn't happen. But still, I don't see other people doing that. Ooh, I'm getting off track. I'm sweating. So I'm going to talk about something called Hallyu, and I have looked up on so many different websites how to say that word. Let me tell you, if I say it wrong, which I'm sure I will, I tried, okay? I want to say it correctly. I don't want to disrespect a culture, a language, whatever. So South Korea specifically has really been pumping out their media, trying to what is called develop a soft power, which is different than like using your military to influence people. They're specifically trying to influence the world through their media. This is not new. The US has done it for years. We're obviously famous for the Hollywood thing. American media is everywhere. Western media is everywhere. Really the only thing like it in the past has just been Bollywood from India. So this is definitely a new thing to see Korea pumping out their own media, because there was a Japanese wave for a little bit, but now it's focused on Korea. But anyway, they're trying to emphasize this image of being cool, of being Korean or looking this certain way or having these traits that are part of Korean culture as being cool. And that's fine. I don't really have a problem with that. So Hallyu, the Korean wave, has been great for Korea. It has boosted their economy significantly. In fact, in 2014, so not even like recently where it's blown up to a degree I don't even understand. It's estimated that in 2014 alone, Hallyu brought in 11.6 billion US dollars equivalent of a boost to the Korean economic market. That's insane. That was in 2014. I don't even know what it would be now. That seems great, but all that money coming in, how much are the actual idols that are bringing in the money getting paid? Not much at all, actually. In 2017, artist Lee Lang sold her trophy that she won during the Korean Music Awards because, quote, "My income in January was 420,000 won, around 370 US dollars. Not just from my music sales, but the total. Thankfully, I made $840 in February. It's difficult to make a living as an artist. It would be great if there was some prize money to this award, but that's not the case. So I think I'll have to sell this trophy." So think about how you live off of that. Like, you can't live off of $370 a month in the US. I don't know how it is in Korea, but that obviously isn't a lot if she's selling an award. Many bands are told that they should just appreciate the fact that they're on stage, and asking for money is greedy and inappropriate. A joke made among members of the industry is, and I quote, "If we can buy cigarettes with the profit from this song, we did okay. If we can buy a pack of fried chicken, we have succeeded." In the American music industry, that is far from the case. People succeed, they get a freaking private jet. Some of these K-pop idols have tried to sue their record labels in the past, but almost always lose. And especially in Korea, where criticism is not something they take lightly. That was why the whole Me Too movement was very difficult in Korea, because if a woman claimed a man did something inappropriate to her, she could be sued for defamation of character. Even if it was correct, it's just the fact that she was criticizing someone. She would get in trouble for that. I could be wrong on that, but that's what my interpretation of the law from when I read it was. Some of these idols have sued these managers, claiming that they deserve a better cut, a better share of the financial gains that they had during their time as an artist. And even while some of them write their own songs, it's very rarely a priority to make unique and new content. It's almost always a formula to follow that they tweak here or there because they know what makes a hit and they know what brings in money. Also keep in mind that all men in South Korea must serve at least 2 years in the military between the ages of 18 and 28. So BTS is going on an extended break apparently. Wonder what they're gonna do, because you can't really exempt from that no matter if you're a pop star or not. And since people's tastes change very quickly and the music world is always evolving to have new stars at the top, it's not unlikely that an artist blows up and then within a few years, once they're forgotten, go into the army and then they're never heard from again, because why do people care? After 2 years, they've forgotten about you. You're not relevant anymore. You're not young and cute anymore. Do you guys know really any older K-pop idols, stars that are really big in America right now? Like, I know Psy was big for Gangnam Style like a while back, but in reality, when you look at all of the K-pop fan cams, they're all young. I don't really see the old ones out there. And again, this comes back to how it affects the mental health of these K-pop idols, how so many of them are subject to suicide. And of course, the pressure from their industry is not helping, but the online criticism is only fuel to the fire. Specifically, a singer named Sully, did I pronounce her name correctly? I'm sorry if I didn't. She spoke openly about her mental health, and she kind of pushed the envelope on criticizing some other parts of the industry, as she should, and then died of apparent suicide after an influx of online criticism. Everything they do or say is critiqued by fans online, by their family, by their culture, by their record label, by their managers, by the other band members. It doesn't matter. They're constantly under heavy scrutiny that I don't really see rivaled in the American music industry. Yes, there is a lot of criticism in the American music industry, but independent artists can kind of come up on their own and create a name for themselves and have way less restrictions on their diet, on their appearance, on their dating life. In fact, K-pop artists are told that they're not allowed to date. They're told to stay single, and if they do date, it has to be under like strict scrutiny all the time. And if there's even a whiff of something that someone doesn't agree with, it's got to be terminated immediately. So outside of their personal lives, let's talk about their working conditions. Like I said, they're pushing to get as famous as they can, as young as they can, because the K-pop industry has put a sort of expiration date of between 5 to 7 years. That's about as long as you're going to stay relevant. After that, you're not relevant anymore. So they're working overtime, they're pushing, they're grinding, they're getting as much content out there as they possibly can, as quickly as they can, because they don't have much time. They don't have a year to take off on hiatus like 21 Pilots did in order to work on a new album and make sure it's perfection, because that's one more year they're losing in their 5 to 7 year range that they might even possibly have a career. Not to mention they start young training these kids. They start at like 5 to 9 years old, training them to dance, to sing, and then getting plastic surgery to look a certain way, because did you know South Korea leads the market in plastic surgery? I'm not saying you can't do what you want with your body, but I'm saying that there's a bit of an obsession when their market is leading in it, and it's like not just encouraged, but almost enforced to look a certain way, so they're getting plastic surgery to make sure they maintain a certain standard of beauty that is impossible to achieve outside of literal plastic being pumped under your skin. Like I said, artists here in the US, such as say 21 Pilots, can release an album, cycle it for about 2 years and tour, and then take a rest for about a year, 2 years, 3 years even, I don't know, 5 years if you're Paramore. The average rest time for K-pop stars? A couple months at best. And I've already talked about this in a previous video, but I'm gonna go ahead and remind you of just how often these idols are fainting and passing out on stage due to extreme dehydration, exhaustion, and hunger. This is a normal thing to the point where there's like whole compilations on YouTube of K-pop stars falling to the ground on stage or even during practice. That shouldn't be normal. That's not a good thing. There shouldn't be enough to make multiple compilations of that. I mean, there was a couple articles that even likened the world of K-pop to the Hunger Games and how competitive and how really life-risking it is to join into that. But how Korea is pushing it because that is what's bringing them the most money, bringing them tourism, bringing in so much clout, I guess, across the world, that they're not willing to give it up, and they're going to keep cranking out as many hits, as many idols for you to stan as possible. And it's a competitive market. It's oversaturated. There's so many K-pop artists now, specifically, that are trying to market to this one group of people. And it's not like, here's country, here's rock, here's heavy metal, here's indie, here's pop. It's all pop, and it's all saturating the market where there's only so many people specifically in the West who are going to listen to it, so they're constantly competing to be at the top tier. Right now it's BTS. For how long? I don't know. Not much longer if they've been at it since 2013, because gotta go in the military eventually. This is comparable to Disney and how it treats its young stars, which we all know is atrocious. We can all pretty much agree that Disney screws up child stars. That's like generally understood. The same thing except worse is going on in K-pop, and no one's batting an eye. They're just replying on Twitter with fancams, which only makes it worse in the long run. Or like Britney Spears in the 90s, everything she went through being a young girl in the pop industry who then later had a breakdown, shaved her head, and still has never fully recovered. She will never be the same. She will never really be able to function as a normal human being again because of what she went through in the pop industry. And that's what's happening to hundreds, if not thousands, of artists in the K-pop industry. Are all going through what Britney Spears went through, but like worse, way worse. In conclusion, yes, what Ethan said during the podcast was not the best choice of words. However, he had a point. And he had a point on Twitter. The K-pop industry is really not something to be funding, in my opinion. Like, yes, support your favorite artists. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But we need to really be figuring out a way to fight for them in a more healthy way other than just spamming fan cams and saying, anyway, stan BTS. I don't know. It doesn't help anyone. If you truly stan these people, figure out a way to help them with their working conditions so that they're not being pushed to their absolute physical and mental limit, where they're not passing out on stage, where they're not committing suicide because they're so miserable and they're receiving so much criticism online that they can't take it anymore, because the criticism they get in real life from their culture, from their families, and from the industry they work in is already too much to bear. Let's figure out a way to help them have a more healthy lifestyle, a more healthy working condition. And if we can't do that, unfortunately, stop funding it, because if you don't fund it, then the harmful parts of the industry can't continue to do what they do. They don't have the money to do it. If they see there's no more demand, they won't keep pushing these people as far as they are. Thank you for watching. I hope this video maybe cleared up some things for you, or at least helped you understand where our side is coming from, the people who aren't really interested in K-pop, and also understand what the industry's doing, and perhaps changes that need to be made before we encourage it further. Remember to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. The links are down in the description, but in case you don't feel like clicking on it, because apparently no one does, I am at olive oil orange juice, or just olive oil orange J on Twitter, because thanks Twitter won't let me have my full name in there. I have pins on Etsy. Check them out. S'il vous plaît. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
My foot in my